This video will give you an introduction to some of the new features that are available in the financial module of HearFormPRO 2018. Let's go look over here in the invoicing area where we can see a previous history of the patient's last purchases, and you can see we've added the product ID so you just can have an idea right in this area all the different things that they purchase as you scroll through. Now for Jennifer, I've got a ton of different invoices. Normally with a patient you may only have one or two or 10, but we've got a lot for Jennifer. But I can create a new invoice, and I'm taken to an area here where I can see now the history of Jennifer, and simply by clicking something on the side you'll see that I can actually see all of her invoices just by clicking off to the side. That's kind of cool. But I also can create a new, let's go back to our invoice portal to show you where I'm at. I can create a new invoice, and I have one screen which will allow me to interact with a repair form, accessories. I haven't broken them into a whole bunch of different screens. You'll notice that this screen is also, even though it does more, it's actually quite a bit less busy than our previous version. So it's real simple to, of course, add an individual item just by clicking in the drop-down list of choices. But you can also use the templates area even easier now. You select the template, and as soon as you do, it will populate the whole invoice just like that. It makes it real simple to interact. And rather than have a lot of information all over the place showing information like this, who created it and the last time it was modified, things like that, we just have little buttons that will allow you to click and show information about that particular line item or payment, or whatever it is, the invoice itself. So I can again click a button and it'll pull up that information and stay off the screen when I don't need it. I also have the ability to do quite a bit at the bottom. Instead of just little notes areas, I have a button here where I can do different notes for purchase agreements, delivery receipts, or in-house notes, much larger, and yet it's not taking up space and making it look cluttered. We can also view our devices very easily just by clicking the button, and just like on the home screen, I could slide through and see additional information about all my hearing aids. I have a supplier invoice. I can mark repairs and assign loaners and do things like that. But this area here is kind of cool: preview, PDF, receipt, etc. I would simply choose whichever one I want, and I can add an unlimited number of other agreements. If, for example, you have the need to have several different kinds of purchase agreements, depending on whether you're working with a certain kind of insurance company, the VA, or a third party, etc. So I can choose that, and then I can either preview or print it to PDF. I can print a basic receipt, 1 or 2 copies, fax, email, or print envelopes for that. So I'm just going to preview that form and see how it looks, and it looks very similar to what we had before, but you can also have the patient sign the bottom of the form with an iPad, making it very easy to have them go relatively paperless for you. So let's go ahead and I'll go back here. I can go to a form, I can email it. I'll just show you that real quick. Let's say I wanted to email that sales form. I just simply click the button and it turns it into a PDF and attaches that and sends it right to Jennifer. What does Jennifer get? She gets that PDF that matches, and it would show, if I had it on there, it would show her signature at the bottom. So let me minimize that because you're not seeing the whole screen here. Let me get out of that. So that area is quite a bit easier. Of course, we still have the ability to print estimates, and we have a commission area that is set to where it can be off limits to anyone that the business owner would desire not have access to that. In fact, the tab actually disappears. It just goes away. So we've made things, we think, a lot easier to interact with in this area here. Of course, we still have a QuickBooks area, receivables area, and you can see in the receivables area when I do a search for patients who have a particular balance, for example, then I can, of course, just like before, I have my my report of financials, but also I can see, let me make this smaller so it fits in the window here, but I can see all the patients who owe me a balance right there on the left hand side. So it really gives you a lot more information than you ever had before, allowing you to interact with it, to print statements for all of the open statements for a patient, or one at a time, very similar that you did before. Let me show you the financial tracking area, which has really been improved. I'm not going to show you everything here, but our line item summary area in particular has been improved, and all I have to do is choose from a series of choices here, and I can choose, for example, which suppliers were fit within that period of time. Now I could include only hearing aids or not, so for example if I uncheck that, then I'm going to pull up different information. I can see all my 92557s, etc. But let me show you one of my favorites. I'll say just hearing aids, and I want to see circuits. And what this does is it pulls up, as we zoom in just a little bit, it pulls up the number of circuits like before, but it's much bigger and easier to read. It's not as cluttered. And I can see my units, my charges, my profit, my margin, my average sales price, things like that. But in the past, there was a problem. What if you didn't want your lyrics in there? Well, you can now click this little button here on the left, and it will omit your lyrics or omit all kinds of things. You have the ability to very easily omit just a particular office location, or omit a clinician or a certain item category, payer type, etc. Or we have built-in buttons to omit that lyric, or more importantly perhaps, is to omit your third-party payers, which may be adjusting incorrectly your average sales price. So I just removed with one click all my third-party payers just like that. Very simple to interact with that. Let's pull those back and show you another nice feature of that. I'll zoom out just a little bit, and I'm going to click this chart button here, and it'll pull up a really cool chart that will show me more information than ever before. So now we have a count of the number of actual units that were sold for that period of time after returns are factored in. And then I have the ability to do this as a pie chart or a number of different ways of looking at that detail. But you'll notice at the very top of the bar, then we can actually see the dollar figures. So we've sold a lot of Verto Q90s, for example. This is all just sample data, of course. But it allows you to, again, to interact with your data in a meaningful way. If I wanted to see what cities people are coming to me from, well, they mostly come from maybe my primary city or something. But there's just lots of ways that you can interact with your data. Let's do a couple more. Let's just say, what size of hearing aids am I selling? And you probably already knew that maybe you're selling a lot of RICs and not a lot of custom CICs or whatever the numbers are. So just different ways of viewing that data, which we think is it's bigger and easier to manipulate and work with. So we think you'll really like the hundreds of different choices that are available. In addition to that, we've made it much easier to interact in a detailed area with all of that data, so you can very easily manipulate that data. And one other thing before I forget is we now have the ability, let's just do I like that one about circuits for some reason. I'm going to come back, and by the way, I can constrain to, as I told you, and remove or omit, but I can also show just third-party payers, or show just physicians, or just a particular manufacturer, etc. So you can constrain or omit very easily. I can print that out. I could turn that into a PDF just by clicking the button, and as I slide it over here, you can see how easy that is to get a nice report and maybe send that to an accountant or something like that. But here's another really nice thing. In the past, we could always export your detailed information. So let's just look at that real quick. I'll click that button. It'll open in Excel automatically, and there I've got all that information from all those different patients, and that's fine. But what if I didn't want that degree of detail? I now have the ability to export as a summary. So I can click the button, and it will pop up and show me just one row for each of those, and gives me some summary information here, which we think is going to be very helpful for an accountant who doesn't necessarily care about all the detail, but rather cares about just the facts. So there's just a lot of really cool stuff that's available in this area now. I think you'll find that much easier to use. So let's go back to our sales screen. It's also easier to interact with the CMS 1500 form. Again, you can assign the physicians and payers and all kinds of things right from here. And the CMS form is just easier to manipulate. You'll notice that, let's go to the charges area. I can actually scroll through and click individual invoices or claims, and I can just do it all right from here. I don't have to go looking up patients. It's just really simple to interact with your claims on each of these areas. So I think that your biller will find that to be significantly easier to do your claims than you could before. And other than that, we have some different forms, and the super bill is a little bit easier. But you can kind of play around with this and see that we have the ability to do quite a bit more in our invoicing area. Just by clicking buttons, there's all my balances and my credits, and I may say I want to omit from all my balances, I want to omit all those that are true hearing, or I want to just constrain to true hearing, or just constrain to insurance, or anything like that. So it's real simple to interact with your data in ways that you can never do before. I hope you'll really like that part. In our next video, we'll talk about how the scheduling system works.